Hello and welcome back. This is Sherry with Heart and Soulful in the studio today. I am going to be doing a video today on stencil making using my Cricut maker. I wasn't expecting this would be the video that I would be doing at the beginning of the year, but if you followed me for a while, you'll know that I tend to bounce around a lot and I have lots of different interests. I started this channel so that I could share the new things that I was learning with my followers, and that's what I'm going to do today, even though it's a little off the topic I thought I'd be doing. If you're just joining me for the very first time, welcome. I hope if you enjoy this channel, you'll give me a thumbs up and click on subscribe so that you can follow along. And if you want to get a notification of a new video, then just hit the little bell and you'll know when I put something new up. If you found me for one specific type of video, maybe it's junk journaling or who knows what, you'll find that I do lots of different things. And so if you have one specific type of video that you like, subject matter, I do arrange my channel by playlists. So if you go to my channel and look there, you'll see all the different playlists I have. And then that way you can find the videos that interest you. So today I had started cleaning up my studio after the first of the year. Like I wanted a fresh start, you know, after I had been off for a while. And I found this package of craft plastic sheets that I had recently purchased probably a month or so ago. And I thought, you know what, I want to try this. I bought these for a reason. And I just had this desire to kind of do something, not just creative, but learning something new, and also doing something artsy and playing with my gel plate again. I haven't played with it in quite a while. So the reason that I bought these was to make stencils. You can do lots of things with these plastic sheets, but I bought them specifically because I wanted to try cutting my own stencils. I don't remember why I picked this brand and thickness. I can't remember if I did watch, I think, one video about making stencils with your Cricut, and it wasn't for the type of stencils that I wanted to make, but she may have mentioned this product. I'm not sure. And I almost don't think so, because the video or two that I did watch would tell you for what material you're using, kind of what settings to do for clean cuts, and I was not getting that with this product. So I almost think that I just went on Amazon or somewhere, or just searched for craft, you know, for some acetate or mylar or something for stencils, and this one popped up and it said it works with die cutting and Cricut machines. So that's why I purchased it. Unfortunately, it didn't have any setting instructions for getting clean cuts with this actual product. I couldn't find it on the manufacturer's website or anywhere there was not like a little piece of paper with instructions on the inside of this package, but I do like the material. So it's from Samsill, and I can put a link down below where I purchased it. But again, this was a big experiment for me because I had never made stencils before using my Cricut or any other way, and I had not used this product before. So it comes, I bought a 50 pack sheet because I knew I'd probably want to be making lots of them, and they're 12 by 12 sheets, which is perfect for the Cricut. And they come with this little tissue in between each one so that they don't get scratched. And you know me, I want to use up every little thing. So I thought, well, I'm gonna do these stencils. They're 12 by 12 sheets. I'm not gonna really want a stencil this big. I mean, if you wanted to use them for like wall decor or using them on furniture or something like that, you might want them this big. But I knew I was gonna be cutting them down into smaller things, and I would have some waste pieces, and I've saved all of that. I'll probably put in a separate video all the things that I'm doing with all the recycled bits just from this packaging, because I want to use every bit of it. This tissue is actually going to be great for collaging. I've done some on my gel plate as I was doing, you know, practicing with my stencils. So I'll be using it for that, stamping on it, and then using it for collage because it's just nice thin tissue. So that's what the thing looks like when you get it out of your package. I'm just going to set that aside. And then I wanted to go about making stencils. So I'm somewhat familiar with my Cricut maker. If you have other Cricut products, Cricut Joy or whatever they're called, I don't know all the different ones, but if you have some of those and they cut plastic, you'll be able to do this with your machine too. So I started out just with some simple graphics, and I'm going to do part of this video actually on my computer so that you can see what I learned, because I did learn some new things. Maybe you've had yours for a while, and so you know a lot more about it than I do, but I'm kind of learning as I go. So my first three I wanted to keep really simple, just because I wanted to learn how to get some basic graphic, simple background stencils to use in mixed media art and gel printing and that sort of thing. So I started out with just a simple plus sign and did this one. I only have one sample of a print of this. I pulled out just some of my favorite prints just so that you could see how they ended up looking. This one is the only one that I want to show, really. I only did a couple with this, and I kept practicing with just maybe some gel prints that were just one color in the background, and so my contrast wasn't enough to really kind of show you what this one looked like. But I did it on here, just kind of a piece that I had already done a couple of pulls, and then I just added some of this. So that's one. Then I did this circle one, which I wasn't sure. This is not the actual one I printed with. I ended up cutting it again because I had a little, when my first probably 5 stencils, I had not figured out the right pressure. I was not getting good clean cuts. So that stencil had a little bit of damage on it. So I went ahead and cut it again. And so this is what they look like. You know, I ended up getting a clear one, just because that's, I don't even know if it came in like an opaque. Sometimes when you buy stencils, you'll see them, they'll be see-through, and sometimes they'll be like an opaque white kind of color, which now I can see for marketing reasons why they use that color, because in the packaging you can see it better than when it's clear and clean like this. So that was a circle one, and I did them just kind of random, different size circles. So this took a little while to do it, just to get them all arranged with the spacing, you know, between each one that I wanted. And when I made this one and printed it the first time, just a single layer, I really kind of had hoped that I had done them a little closer together. I wasn't real thrilled with it, but then when I actually did it more than once, I ended up loving it because it looks like bubbles. So I'll show you the prints I made with that. I'm not showing you any prints I made with this one. These were the first 3 stencils that I made. Again, just kind of me practicing with super easy graphics. I wanted to do different size squares, and I didn't really care to line them all up evenly because I wanted different sizes, so I ended up just kind of making them wonky. I'm not sure how much I love this one or not yet. I want to use it a little bit more to see, but you know, again, I just want to do some things that are different from stencils that I have. I don't have a lot of stencils, and that's kind of why I wanted to learn how to do this. That way I can cut more than one and have them at each studio and not have to be hauling them back and forth. So that's kind of what my thinking was. So for this one, I ended up, like I said, printing it once, and I didn't really like it. And then I did a print and then moved the stencil, put a different color, and did that. I think this one's probably about 3 times. And it looks like little bubbles, and I really like that. And this one does have some shimmer in it. I'm going to do another video that has where I actually do some of these techniques and show you the layers and kind of what I did. But today I want to just kind of show you how I made the stencils. So this is kind of just a teaser to show you why I'm making these stencils. This one, I don't know why, but it kind of reminds me of like a Star Trek symbol or something. Maybe it's what their doors are, if I look back at an old episode or something. But I wanted to kind of get a little more complicated than with my graphic, instead of just a simple shape, which it is simple shapes, but then I've combined them to make a design. This is really addictive, like everything else I try, but I really liked how this one turned out. And when I made that more complicated design, I decided it would be fun to shrink it down. So this is like a nice big open pattern, but then I might want it to be a little smaller, tighter pattern for, you know, maybe just, you know, doing here and there in a spread in an art journal or something like that. So I ended up printing one 8.5 by 11 on the 12 by 12 sheet. I keep saying printing, but I'm cutting that with my Cricut. And then I decided to take this design, since it took me a while to get that created, and go ahead and utilize that and make it into different distorted shapes, but using the same stencil. And so I'm going to show you on my computer how I did that, just to make it another quick, easy way. So I don't think I have any of this size printed, but maybe if I put them here, you can kind of see that design. So I did them in a 5 by 7. I did them in a 6 by 6, and you can see that when you change that shape, it's squishing it one way or the other, so it changes the pattern just enough to look a little bit different. And then I did it in a 4 by 6. I have a gel plate that's like 3.5 by 7, so I may start to do some like that, so that if I do want to cover the whole plate, I can. But these I kind of just intended to use as little patchwork bits. And then I did one in a circle. I'm not even sure I can remember how I did that, but I have a 3-inch circle gel plate too. But you can even lay, you know, this whole thing over a circle gel plate, or use a mask or something like that. That's more things that I want to, as I'm making these now, make some mask style stencils also. So that was 5 different stencils I got from making one design. So that was a lot of fun, and I love the way these printed out. You know me, I love kind of grungy things, so I did some experimenting with pulling them in different ways, and again, I'll show that in a different video, but it's kind of using the positive and negative parts of the design. So this is just on, you know, cheap copy paper, and then this one's just on some deli paper that I use, some wet deli paper, and it wrinkles quite a bit, but then I, you know, ironed them out, and it was just pulled off of one that I had just been using to kind of clean my brayer. And so I used that as a background and then just pulled the stencil in black. Then I decided to get really fancy for me, and I wanted to do some text. I always like when I see kind of industrial looking text in different sizes and different fonts. And the Cricut Maker, I pay for the all access. If you have a Cricut, you understand what that is. It's a monthly subscription that you pay so that you can have access to all the a lot of different graphics and things within, and then even saving your projects and that sort of thing. It just allows you more than just the free things, different graphics and things that you can pay for individually, but the access one comes with a lot more than the free stuff. So these fonts were stencil fonts. Not all fonts are already stencil fonts, and you have to actually make them into stencil fonts. So I was actually able to find enough different ones that I made this really special. It's, my son and his longtime love are engaged, and so I have wedding on the brain, and so I did one with like lots of meaningful things for them, their initials and birthdays and just different kinds of things. So that was a lot of fun. It took me a while. This one had like 4 iterations before I ended up with something that I like. So that's something that I would recommend. If you're gonna make your own stencils, cut them on cardstock first so that you can make sure you like the design before you waste the plastic. Anyway, so I printed this a couple different ways, again, kind of using a positive and a negative idea, and love how that one turned out. And then this one, the next 2 I think are going to be the last 2 I show you for today. They are my favorites. I got a little bit more complicated in my design, and I just really love how this one turned out. And I actually even want to play around with this one a little bit more or do something similar. But this is the 8.5 by 11 size. Actually, I say 8.5 by 11. They're cut to 8.5 by 11, but the design I kept to 8 by 10 because that was the size of my gel plate. And you kind of have to think about that. When you're going to make your stencils, you can make them any size you want. So you have to just think about how you want to use them and then make them accordingly. It's nice to have a little bit of edge, something to grab, you know, to pull them up. So doing them 8.5 by 11, I can store them in a regular binder size or folder size, or those you know, sheets protectors, if that's what I want to do. But it's just kind of an easy size to work with. And then again, I did them in the 5 by 7 and a 6 by 6, and again, you can see how it really changes the shape of them. And then again, in this one is like a 4.5 inch square, I think, for a smaller pattern. Again, to just, you know, use here and there. And you can see that's what I've done with these. And then this is a 4x6. This is one of my very favorite ones. I used some color shift metallics to get that, and then also some iridescent medium. And I'll show you that when I actually do some test prints on camera. But again, it looks like metal. Even where the black was, looks like metal. So again, these are kind of using positive and negative. So this one's just on some cheap copy paper, and then this one's on some tissue paper. No, actually not tissue paper. This is the wet deli paper, which, you know, gives you these wrinkles. So if you like grunginess, you know, wet deli paper is just kind of fun for something really cheap to practice on. And then I also, I mean, I'm kind of doing these so that I have lots of material for collage that I designed myself. And so I don't mind that. This paper is actually really nice and thin for collage. So I did some on that. This is one of the smaller ones, and I actually just used this. This was cleaning off a stencil, is what gave this little bit of background. And then this was just cleaning off my plate. I keep a little book off to the side to clean my gel plate, but I'll pull these off and use these as a background for then the stencil. And then I use a 5x7 gel plate to the side also just to clean off my brayer. Or if I'm waiting for something to dry and have extra paint, I can do another smaller one. And so I really like how that one turned out nice and grungy too, with all the layers of paint. And this little cutout there is just a reminder to me too. When you make the stencils, it took me a while, but I got it to where it was cutting all the way through, mostly, so that when you pulled the stencil off of your Cricut mat, it would pull up and leave behind all the little bits. But every once in a while, one would get stuck in there. And so I'd have to, you know, use an X-Acto knife, or sometimes it'll just break off itself. But because I'm working with clear plastic, sometimes you don't see that. If you have an opaque white one, like if I might, next time I buy that product, if it comes in an opaque white, buy it that way. Because if you've missed one of your little cutouts, in clear you don't see it, whereas in the opaque white you would see it because it would look clear because there should be nothing there. Well, I didn't see it, and I went to actually gel print and there was a little piece still there, so it acted as a mask. So that was kind of just a reminder for me to tell you that. And then this one is really just a little banner in your, you know, you have some different symbols that are available, different shapes that you can make, just basic ones from your Cricut design space. And this was just a banner, and then I just changed the size of it so it didn't look like a banner. It just made a little design that I thought I would like, the positive and negative space. So that one, and then here are some just different examples so you can see what they look like. Different techniques. I found I really kind of liked this age to vintage kind of technique, and I was playing around with it on what looks to me like modern geometrics are kind of like modern looking, and I kind of wanted them to see if I could get them to look more industrial or vintage, and what I could do with the gel plate to do that. So that was kind of a technique that I've really used more than once, and I really like. And then again, I wanted to do some maybe with color instead of just using a lot of black for the stencil. I did use a lot of black when I did my first test prints because I really wanted to see the design. But then I also want to see what they look like if you do them with less contrast. Again, you know, kind of a vintagey, grungy look, but with some color. And then again, just on some deli paper. And this was, again, just a deli paper I had used to clean my brayer, or just to put color on for a background, and then pull kind of a ghost print of the design. Clean off the stencil, depending on how much paint's on there. Same with this kind of thing. This was more intentional. And I can show you, there's different orders you can use your stencil. You can put the paint down first, then put the stencil down, or vice versa. So this was doing it the other way, putting the stencil down and then putting the paint in. And again, with one of the metallics, and I really like that. These are just gonna be fun, great, you know. This one's on Japanese rice paper. And I like that. It doesn't wrinkle like the wet deli paper does. And again, this is one of my favorites with all the metallic and the grungy both together. So I like that one a lot. And then this was the last stencil I made, and I really love it too. This was just using 2 half circles. So the shape it comes out to be when you make the space in between is a little bit elongated, but I really like this, and I have ideas already for how I want to cut this up and use it in collage. So I'm excited to move on to the next step here, but that was the 8x10 on a 8.5 by 11 sheet. And then again, I did the smaller ones. So I can fit, I'll lay them out how I do in my program, fit this way to do 5x7, 6x6, 4x6, and then a 4.5-inch square. And that all fits on your 12x12 sheet. You think you could make them a little bit bigger, but on a Cricut, your maximum cutting area for a sheet, if you want to get it all in one, is 11.5 by 11.5. So this worked out to that. But I like how some of them look more circular and these are more elongated. So just kind of fun, another way to get 5 stencils out of one design. And then I love how these printed. So this one again is with that. This is just done on regular copy paper, putting the stencil down first and then black through, and then the layers are the metallic shift paints, color shift paints again. I like how that turned out. This one is the reverse, where you put the paint down, black paint down first, then put the stencil down, clean off through the stencil, and then add more color. And again, you get that kind of metallic look, because this ends up looking kind of all beaded and kind of like pitted metal, because the plastic has sat there for a while and pulled up a lot of the paint. So I love how that turns out. And then again, just some more experiments, trying to do some with color, not with black, in lighter, less contrast for some backgrounds. Again, on the deli paper, this is what the 5x7 looks like. And this was just really cleaning off my, doing stenciling through on one side and cleaning off after pulling up on the other side, just to show you the positive and negative design. And then I think this was just a second pull, cleaning up that first one where I tried to mix some copper paint. And then even on, like I said, I use a book to clean off my brayer, and an old book, and just even use that, and kind of cleaned up some extra paint, just for another little collage paper. Okay, so that's the show and tell part. And now I want to go over to my computer and just kind of show you what I learned, because these were a couple things I did not know how to do. So I'm guessing, maybe you don't either. So let's head over to my computer. The other thing that I learned in the last week and a half was how to actually record my screen and make it be part of my video. So this is also new for me, to try to show you how to do things in this way. So what I am going to show you first is just kind of creating a basic design. So I am in my Cricut design space already. I'm going to assume that if you have a Cricut, you already know how to do this part. But I have a new blank screen here. And the first thing that I wanted to do was to go to shapes and just find maybe some kind of shape to make, some basic design. So I'm going to grab this one just because I haven't done this one yet, and we'll just kind of make something super simple. I see that the size over here is just not quite a 2-inch square, so I'm going to unlock it just to make my math easier and make sure it's 2 inches by 2 inches. And I'm going to put it up in the corner. And I'm doing this for a reason, because I'm just going to kind of do math as a way maybe to arrange this instead of eyeballing it. So I have this piece. Now let's say I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate it. Now you can also duplicate it by clicking over here under your layers. This little plus will also duplicate it. So because I want kind of some kind of design now, I can put these side by side in a row and, you know, do something, another row below here. Let's see what that might look like. I'm going to duplicate it again, just kind of alternating them like this, you know, and that's a kind of a cool pattern. It might end up looking kind of like fish scales or something like that, and that could be kind of neat. I also thought I could flip this. If I flip it vertically, it's going to make it go upside down, and I could do something like that and do these in a row. And what I'm going to do is get rid of these two. I'm going to just select both of those, and that was just hitting my cursor and dragging it, and then I can just hit delete and get rid of them. Or I can select them both like this, holding down my shift key and select that one. It selects both, and there's a trash can over here. That's another way to get rid of it. So to unselect this, I'm just clicking outside here on my pad, on my space here. So what I could do is I could kind of space these. This one is at, I'm going to put at 0, 0 again. This one I'm going to put at 0 and 2 1/4, and that gives me a 1/4 inch gap between for my stencil. So imagine these gray areas are the cutouts of my stencil. So now what I can do is I can just select both of these, go down here to the right hand bottom corner and click attach, and now they are one piece that I can move. So I'm going to leave it up there. I'm going to duplicate that, and then I can just space them a 1/4 inch apart this way if I want. You could do all kinds of designs, okay? So let's just do a row of these. And this is a big open design. You can size these to 1 inch by 1 inch if you want. You know, it's just whatever. That's where the fun is and the creativity part is. You design it how you want, and then you go from there. So this one I'm going to position 2 1/4 this way. So 2.25 and then 0 all the way to the top there. Okay, so those two are lined up. So now to make it easy on myself, I'm going to select both of those, and I'm going to attach those together. And now when I duplicate that, it makes my life much easier. So I'm going to, again, put this a 1/4 inch away. So it's going to be at 4 1/2 and tab over to 0. So these are all lined up. Now the other way that you can line them up, you know, if you've used Design Space, again, like I said, at all, you know how to do this already, but you could select these, and then up here is align, and you can align them to the left, you can center them, or you can align them to the top, which, let's say, for example, this one was down here. I could just select both of these, align to the top, and it's putting them both to the top. Kind of like looking over here to see where they are, because sometimes when you're moving them, even if you just go to click on it, see how it jumped a little bit? It moved it. And so this is just for me to go back and verify it's exactly where I want it to be. Okay, now I know that when I do this, I want it to be on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of plastic, but I want my design to only be 8 by 10 so that it fits on my gel plate in one design. And you can see that I'm a little over that here. So now what I can do is, now that I have one complete row, I can select all, and I want my design, right now it's telling me that all those pieces are 8.7, 8 3/4 wide by 4 1/4 tall. The 4 1/4 right now tall is okay, but I need to pay attention to my width. What I normally do, I could change it and make it be 8 here, or I can finish my design and then shrink the whole thing to the size I want. So I think that's what I'm going to do. I have these 4 selected. I'm going to attach those. I'm going to duplicate that row, and I'm going to put it down here, and I'm going to put it a 1/4 inch from the row above it. So again, I'm going to look over here. I want it at 0 and I want it at 4.5. And now there's a 1/4 inch space between those two. And that put me about to 9. Now, I know I only want it to go to 10, which would make me really maybe only want to use half of this, but I want to see what the shape ends up looking like. So I'm just going to duplicate it again. I'm going to put it down here at a 1/4 of an inch lower, which would be at 9. Because I'm using my grids to kind of see where I want to be. And that takes me way more than I want it to be. But this is what the fun part is. This is a shape, but that doesn't mean that's the shape that my end design has to be. So I'm going to select all, and I'm going to attach them so that it's like one piece again. And then I want to make them fit to an 8x10 and see what happens. So I'm going to unlock under size. I'm going to unlock the little padlock so that it lets me, if I don't unlock the padlock, it's going to keep these relative to each other to the size it already is. I want to distort it to the size I want, so I'm going to make it be 8x10 and see it changed the shape of it even. But that's kind of a fun design, so we're going to go with that. So now I'm to 8x10 for my design, but now I want to fit it onto a piece of plastic that's 8.5 by 11. So I'm going to go back here to shapes. I'm going to grab a square. I'll put it here. I'm going to make it be a white background just so you can see the contrast. I'm going to unlock the size again because I want it to be 8.5 tab over 11. Okay, now here's my piece. I want to go to arrange and send it to the back. Okay, so now I have my two designs. I have my background and I have my design. So you can see I keep jumping out to this grid to click. That is unselecting anything. So I'm going to select my design and my background. So I can either do it individually by hitting Shift, or I could just, because there's only two things on here, I can hit select all and it has everything selected. The other place you can select things, if you don't know this, is over here. See, it's a paler green color. You can click on any one of these and it's selecting just that part. Okay, so I'm just going to go select all is the easiest. And then I'm going to go to here into a line. I'm going to go center horizontally, and then I'm going to hit, I still have them selected. I'm going to hit a line again and I'm going to do center vertically. So now what it did was it centered my design onto that 8.5 by 11 sheet, perfectly centered. The other thing I need to do is to attach these. If I don't, if I go up here to make it and I have not attached these, you can see I have basically an 8x10 and an 8.5 by 11, which it wants to put on two different sheets. So what I need to do is I have them all selected. I need to attach those again together. Now I use attach. You can use flatten, I think, or weld, and it will do that. But I want to go back and make changes to this later, and I think it's easier, at least in my experience, to just use attach. So it's all the same color now. All these lines are going to be cut. Okay, so now I go to make it, and now you can see everything's on one sheet. So my material I'm going to use is 12 by 12 plastic, and then I'm going to just go ahead and hit continue. Okay, so the base material they want you to set, you might have nothing here, a blank screen, because you haven't set any favorites. You can go to popular and it will bring up things, or you can go to browse all materials. So when you're just starting out, go to browse all materials if you don't know, and you'll see that there are categories, artboards, and different things. Cardstock, different size cardstock, different kinds of fabric, a whole list. Okay, so what happens is sometimes you won't find what you are wanting to use on these lists. I could find acetate if I go up here and I search all materials. Acetate, it did come up with a couple of things. This is where you would favorite something. You just click over here on the star and it'll turn gold. Then it'll be in your favorite, okay? So the acetate, it doesn't tell me anything about the thickness of it. So how do I know if that's gonna work or not? If I just go and do a practice run and I can tell you I did, then it doesn't cut through all the way, okay? So you can try Mylar. There's another one. And there is a Mylar, but again, I tried that and it did not cut through. Then I tried plastic. Let's see if there's any plastics. So you'll get all of these different things. Plastic packaging. I tried all these different things and nothing was cutting through. I even tried multiple passes and I did not know how to do that the way you're supposed to do that. I was putting my plastic in, letting it cut, unloading it, and loading it back in. And the problem with that is it doesn't always line up exactly the same, and you end up like with a double cut that neither one cut through. So I was having all these problems because I didn't know what I was doing. And so I did watch a little video, I think on the Cricut thing, or I just searched the question, how do you do a double pass? And I did learn how to do that. And that was a game changer. And the other thing that I learned how to do was to add your own material. Okay, so to do that, let me go back here to browse all materials. Down here at the bottom in green, it says material settings. Now, I hadn't found this yet, and so this whole list that gives you all this more detail, I did find on their website and I printed it out. So I had a copy of this, and then I found that little thing and clicked on it, and it's all right here. And so this was a wonderful discovery because it shows you the cut pressure. It shows you how many times the machine is defaulted to cut that material. Sometimes you see off because it's only going to cut it one time. This one down here, you see it's going to cut it 17 times to cut that board, okay? And it tells you what blade type it's defaulted to use. Okay, so if you clicked on one of those materials that's already there, this is what it's going to give you. So I started playing around. You can edit these. So you can adjust the pressure. So you can try the acetate and bump it all the way up to 350 using your fine point blade. It doesn't let you change what blade, but it does let you change how many times it's going to pass. And the nice thing about this is when it does these passes, it's cutting that one particular shape 2 times, 3 times, whatever number of times before it moves to the next one, so you're getting a nice clean cut. Now, I didn't try bumping this up to more numbers of cuts and just leaving it at acetate, mostly because 3-4 times, that just takes so much longer. I wanted to really see what I could do with just 1 or 2 cuts. So I decided to add my own material. So I'm going to cancel this. So you can change, like say you have acetate that you use, and you're not going to change that. You can go ahead and up the cut pressure, the number of cuts, and save that. And so now your acetate is going to be different than the default acetate, if that makes sense. So you can do that. But I went ahead, and if you scroll all the way to the bottom of this page, you can see where you can add a new material. And so this is just a game changer. So I was able to type in the name, exactly the name of my product and the weight of it, so that I will know while I have this package of Samsill, which it's up here listed now. This is all alphabetical. You can see my Samsill Craft Plastic and the thickness of it. And what I ended up setting it to was 325. I'm cutting it 3 times with my fine point blade. Now, I tried using a deep point blade at 2 times and setting it at 350. I did multiple different experiments. And what happened is sometimes it would do too much pressure, even on my default pressure. And so it would actually, you could see where it would cut into my mat. And so what you want, in a perfect world, is for it to completely cut through your material but not cut your mat. So after my many experiments, This is what I came to for this product. This is why I wanted to do this video, because if you don't have craft plastic and you want to go out and buy some to use for whatever kind of project, I've now done all the experiment for my machine that ended up cutting through without cutting my mat. So you create your thing, you hit save. When you put the name in, I'll just do test again because you have to do this in multiple steps. So once you hit test, you have to save that, and then it's up here. So this was, you see I have another test where I was trying a different material. And again, here it will let you adjust the pressure all the way up to 350 is the highest that'll go. Then you can do how many times you want to cut it. And then you can actually here even choose what type of blade you want to use. So you can create as many materials, I guess, as you want. So I just got rid of that because I don't really need it. Then when you're finished, you would hit done and it saves the whole thing. So I'll just click on done. Okay, so now I know that my Samsill Craft Plastic is going to work. I did find that the default was not quite, it cut them out, but it didn't cut every little piece out perfectly. So I end up doing this more pressure. So I know this now about my product. I can write on my packaging if I want to do more pressure, and that way I'll remember in case I forget. So, or I could do it right here in the title, and then I would know I need to use more pressure. And then you would just go on, your machine now is flashing for you to start it. I'm not gonna do this because I don't have my plastic ready and I don't wanna wait here with the noise. So I'm just gonna cancel that cut, and I'm gonna cancel here because I wanna go back and show you real quick how then you can make different sizes of this. So I'm gonna save this one, and I'm just gonna I'm going to just call it test 1. And then I've created a new collection for myself just for my stencils. So I'm going to, it shows my collections here. So I'm just going to click that so it saves it in my stencils. And then I could find that again under my stuff up here. So I have this one. I'm going to go ahead and play with this size. Just select the one that I want to play with, which is my 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to unlock, and I'm going to just change this to 5 by 7. Okay, and so that is my first one. Then I'm going to hit Command D to duplicate it, or I could go up here and click on the plus. And for this one, I want to do let's say a 6 by 6. So I need to unlock my lock, and I'm going to do a 6 by 6. And you can choose any size. I'm just trying to maximize my 12-inch material, and I have to keep that in order to cut them all on one sheet. I need to keep it within 11.5 inches both directions. So because I did this 5 by 7, I have 6.5 inches to play with basically. So I'm just going to do a 6-inch square. And then the next one I'm going to do, I can duplicate this one, and I'm going to do a 4 by 6. Now there's two ways to do this. I can either do just unlock it here and do a 4 by 6, but for my material I need to stay within the 11.5. So I actually need to rotate this 90 degrees. The other thing that I can do, or I could have done, is to use this one again, and instead and duplicate it, and instead of making it 4 by 6 and rotating it, I can unlock it and do 6 by 4, and you'll see that it is going the right direction for my material because I'm going to put it here, but the shape is different. So I kind of like this one. This one's too similar to these other ones, so I'm going to delete that one and I'm going to use this one. I just like that it's a different enough design. And then let's duplicate this one and see what happens if I make this one a 4.5 inch square. It will fit in my space, and again it is more like this shape but smaller. So I have 4 that fit on there. Now obviously you can make them any size you want. Maybe you want a much finer pattern. This was just the quick and easy way to give myself a smaller scale design without having to detach everything and start again from the beginning. So in order to make this now, I need to attach all of these together. If I don't, the machine is going to decide how it wants to arrange these, and it's going to arrange them onto two separate pieces of material, and I don't want that. So I'm going to select all, and then I'm going to click on attach. And now you see there is a border all the way around. So anytime you're making something and you know you have it arranged how you want it to cut, but then when you go to make it, it has arranged it different than you want, you need to attach your things together is the reason. So just remember to select all and attach before you go to make it. And now when I click on make it, it's going to put it on the material. And so all you have to remember is to keep it within 11.5. You can see there's a little red border around here. Even though my grid is, and my material goes all the way to the up to the gray, there is a offset that the machine has to do where that red line is. So as long as your design is within 11.5 by 11.5, then it should work. Okay, so I'm not going to go ahead and make this right now. I'll cancel that. But as you can see, this was not rocket science. I'm just a beginner, and so I wanted to share with you what I learned this last week. Okay, so that is how I made my first attempt at stencils, and all my mistakes that I made, and figuring things out. So it's a lot of fun, totally addictive. Another thing, I went down a rabbit hole. I have so many ideas now for more complicated designs. And again, like I said, doing some masks type stencils too, and that sort of thing. So if you're interested, I'm going to probably do some more playing around because I have some more ideas and I don't want to forget them. So before I get back to that journal that I need to put back together, which I will do, I want to kind of go with some of the ideas that I have that are kind of in this maybe new series that I'm going to create. So if you're interested, I'm not an expert with the gel plate. You know, I've played with it before. But if you're interested in me kind of on camera showing you how I did any of these finishes, then let me know down in the comments, because otherwise I might not do that right away. But I am going to keep playing with some things. So if you would like to see that, please let me know, and if I get enough people interested, then I will go ahead and do a gel plate demo showing you how I used these stencils, and I will keep making more. So have a great rest of your day. Now go make something. Bye.